Hey there, and thank you so much for joining me for class today. We're going to combine a hatha flow with some yin postures at the end. So with a hatha flow, it's just sort of moving slowly through postures, taking several breaths there and several breaths for the transitions. So let's get started by bringing our feet about hip distance apart with your middle toes facing forward. Bring your hands together right at the center of your chest. Let your shoulder blades drop. Press your fingertips, your fingers, and your palms together and just take 5 deep breaths here, in and out through the nose. With every inhalation, let your spine grow a little bit taller, and with every exhalation, let your feet root down into the mat just a little bit more. Final breath here. And then with your next inhalation, let the eyes open. Take the arms overhead, gaze up, move nice and slow. And then as you exhale, swan dive forward with a slight bend into the knees. Let's take that nice and slow too. We're going to let the head hang, let the shoulders hang. Relax everything down to the floor. Keep a nice generous bend into the knees. Maybe rock back and forth between the heels and the balls of the feet. And just start to create a little space in the back of the legs. One more full breath here. And then use your next inhalation to come into a half lift. You can start by placing your hands on your shins, but I also recommend maybe using blocks or placing like little stacks of books under your hands. We're doing a hatha version of a vinyasa flow, so you'll have plenty of time to slide those stacks out of the way if you need to. But find a position that allows you to create a flat surface on your back, flat enough that you could place a wine glass there. So if you have to round your back in order to touch the floor, then that's a good idea or a good sign that you might want to use some blocks. Extend the crown of your head away from your tailbone, draw the belly in and up, and straighten your legs to capacity. Maybe about 3 more breaths here. One more full breath. And then exhale to slide your blocks out of the way and find your forward fold again. Heavy head, heavy neck, soft shoulders. Maybe pull the low belly in and up so that you can fold a little bit more deeply. And then the next time that you're ready to inhale, take your gaze up, put a little bend into your knees. Step back with your right foot all the way to the back of the mat, and then lower that right knee down to the ground. Pause here. Notice if this feels okay on your knee. If your knee feels like it's maybe in a little pain or too much pressure, you can grab a blanket or any sort of like padding to place under your knee. I'm just using this little foam pad because it's handy to move around. From there, go ahead and stack your shoulders, your ribs, and your hips. Really focus on that integration between your ribs and your hip points, and then let the whole unit sink forward. If you have to break at the mid-body for that to happen, just come out of the lunge a little bit. You can pause here with your hands on your knees for stability, or take both of your arms overhead. Draw your shoulder blades together, straighten and engage the arms, and bring your chin parallel to the floor. Few breaths here. Final breath. And then use your exhalation to place your hands down onto the mat. You can slide your padding out of the way. Inhale to get your hands rooted. Exhale to step both legs back, knees down, and then lower your chest and your chin. You can leave your tush up in the air. Just take a few breaths with the chin, the chest, the knees, and the feet on the mat. Think about drawing your tailbone up and bringing your nose towards the front end of the mat. Squeeze your elbows in. With your next inhalation, untuck the toes. Let your chest slide forward between your hands and find a low cobra. Now you want to press the tops of your feet into the mat and lengthen the legs. Squeeze your shoulders and elbows in. Press your pubic bone down to help lift the chest. You want to keep maybe a little bit of weight in the hands, perhaps even better if you can eliminate the weight from the hands, just to make sure that you're using your back muscles. Press the feet down, press the pubic bone down, lift the heart up. Take a few more breaths. Exhale to release. Pass through tabletop on your way to your downward facing dog. First down dog of our practice, so it's a great idea to maybe move a little bit. You can bend one knee, bend the other knee. Even create some space in the side body by rocking onto the outer edges of your feet. And pressing firmly through both hands. Take about 2 more breaths in your down dog. Really pressing evenly through all of your fingertips, lifting out of the wrists. And then as you gaze forward, put a little bend into your knees and start to exhale your way to the front end of the mat, taking lots of little baby steps. We'll meet up in a forward fold. Take 2 more breaths in your forward fold. Maybe you straighten the legs just a smidgen more. Maybe you don't, that's also okay. And we're going to find our half lift. So again, grab hold of your blocks or your books. You'll have a few breaths to get settled in here. Long back body, straight legs, pressing evenly through all 4 corners of both feet. Lengthen the back of the neck. And just keep enough space for maybe a grapefruit between your chin and your collar. Nice. Take your next exhalation to slide the blocks out of the way. Find your forward fold again. This time, take opposite hand into opposite elbow and let yourself ragdoll if you didn't the last time. It just kind of feels good to get some space onto the sides of the ribs whenever you take that little twist. Final breath here. And you can use your inhalation to reverse swan dive your way up to standing. Nice, long reverse swan dive, and then exhale to take your hands to your heart. Now, that's just one side. That gives you an idea of how slowly we're going to take these passes through our sun salutation V. So let's move into the next side. Hands together at your heart center. Use your inhalation to bring both of your arms up, gaze up overhead. Exhale, bend your knees and swan dive forward, forward fold. Maybe this time you press your fingertips into the mat and just use that leverage to help pull your nose towards your shins. Keep a bend into the knees if that feels good on your hamstrings and your low back. Final breath here. And we'll use that inhalation to take hold of our blocks or a stack of books, or if you're able to do it without either, that's perfectly fine too. But we just want to make sure that we get that long L shape in the body. Several breaths here. I find it feels really nice on the hips to traction my feet apart from one another. So imagine that you can drag the feet away from each other towards the outer edges of your mat. So, your feet won't move, but that's where your energy is pressing. Some bodies, it actually feels good to drag the feet towards each other, so you can play around with both and see what you like. Take 2 more full breaths wherever you are. And then use your next exhalation to take your blocks away. Bring your hands down to the mat and step to the back of the mat with your left foot this time. If you used any padding on your knee, go ahead and repeat that same thing. I always like to tell my students that you shouldn't feel pain in any yoga posture. So if you have any pain in your knee and lunges or anything like that, use a prop that helps take that pain away or modify the posture. It's not about making your body fit into a shape or feel a certain way on the mat. It's about making the posture work for you, right? So make yourself comfortable here. Make it feel good. Hands on your knee for stability or arms up. With every inhalation, grow taller through the upper body, and then as you exhale, let your hips sink down and forward towards your right heel, even if it's just in your mind that it's happening, even if there's not a ton of physical movement. Final breath here. And then use your exhalation to let your hands come down to the mat. Step your right knee back to meet your left. And we're going to find Ashtanga Pranam, that knees, chest, and chin position. If Ashtanga Pranam is uncomfortable on your body for any reason, you can always come completely down onto your belly. If you are taking Ashtanga Pranam, squeeze the shoulders and the elbows in, press the balls of the feet into the mat, and lift the tailbone. Use your next inhalation to untuck the feet, slide your chest forward between your hands, find that low cobra. Your shoulder blades sink down the back. Your elbows stay nice and firm into the body. Notice if you're blowing up your stomach here, like if you're pressing your stomach into the ground. Maybe focus your energy on pressing your pubic bone into the ground and using your back muscles to help peel yourself away from the floor rather than just, inflating your gut to help make that lift. That can actually be pretty dangerous for your abdominal muscles, especially if you're postpartum or experience any other back pain or abdominal weakness. It's a long time in a low cobra, but take 2 more breaths here. Exhale to release. Pass through tabletop, last down dog. This one you're welcome to take in movement, but I also encourage you to maybe find some stillness here. Find the symmetry in your down dog. Press firmly through that L shape created by your index finger and your thumbs. Maybe you press the hands forward and start to ease your chest back towards your thighs. You're always welcome to take your down dog with your knees bent. And that also can help to bring your tailbone a little bit closer to the ceiling, so you're getting a nice long angle from your wrist up to your tailbone. One more full breath here in your down dog. And you can use your exhalation to gaze forward, put a bend into your knees, and start to make your way towards the front edge of the mat to find a forward fold. Now you can take this forward fold with your feet hip distance apart, or if you're starting to feel more open, you can walk your feet in towards one another. Yogi's choice, neither is better than the other. Let the head hang. Final breath here, and we're going to make our way to our half lift again. Maybe you take your blocks of setting lower than you had them earlier in the practice if you've created a little more space for your forward fold. If your body still hasn't responded in that way, that's okay too. Just put them back on the higher setting. I find that one leg tends to take a little bit longer to warm up than the other, so I just have to take it one breath at a time, see what feels good. And forward fold again. These long forward folds can really help you to get into the hamstrings, but if you start to feel it in your low back, bend the knees even more. It's more important to keep the rib and the thigh connection than it is to try to bring your nose to your shins or straighten your legs or anything like that. So just really pay attention to that rib to thigh connection and the ease of the lower back. And use your next inhalation to come all the way up to standing, reverse swan dive. And then exhale your hands to your heart. Nice. Take a moment to just close the pose, get rebalanced here. So find your Anjali Mudra at the center of the chest. Root down through the feet on your exhalations. Inhale to get taller. Nice. Exhale to release. All right. We're going to come into a few more standing postures with our little hatha flow, and then we'll be able to get down into our yin. So I'm going to slide my blocks out of the way, but we'll be using triangle pose. So if you generally use blocks in a triangle pose, place one block at either edge of your mat. Come to the front edge of the mat with your big toes touching, hands on your hips. Inhale to take your left foot up and forward, bending at the knee, and then exhale, take that left foot all the way to the back of the mat and find a high lunge. Sink into the right knee, stack the right knee over the ankle. Inhale the arms up, or you can keep your hands at your hips if that feels good. It can be very helpful for your balance to keep the arms low. It's also healthy on the shoulders if you're experiencing any pain or injury there. As you exhale, bring your left hand forward, right hand back. Open your chest towards the right side of your mat. Maybe you take your gaze back towards your right thumb. Notice what's happening in your back leg. If that back leg has kind of gone lazy and fallen asleep, bring some energy back into it. Maybe lift your knee away from the floor. Final breath here. Take your hands to your hips. Let your hips open or your chest open towards the front of the mat, and then open all the way to your warrior two. So now your hips and your heart are open towards the left side of the mat. You're bending deeply into your right knee, and you're pressing into the outer edge of the left foot. Bring the arms parallel to the ground, palms down, shoulders away from the ears, and then take your gaze over your right hand. Sink a little bit deeper for the last two breaths. And now for our triangle pose. Straighten the front leg. Reach and extend your right fingertips forward as much as you can. Maintain that length in the right side of your body as you let your hands cartwheel down. Now, if your hands find your ankle or the floor, great. If they find your block, also great. What's more important is keeping your front leg nice and straight and engaged. Lifting through your back kneecap so that your quadriceps is engaged, and rotating your top ribs back. If you need a block or 2 blocks to help all that happen, then grab what you need. We have a few breaths here. Nice. To come out of the posture, take your right hand down to your hip, bend into your front leg, ease yourself up. With both hands on your hips, start to walk your back foot in a little. And when you feel stable between both feet, rotate your hips towards the front edge of the mat and step forward, please. We'll do that same sequence on the other side. Hands to your hips, weight shifts into the left foot. Inhale to lift the right knee, right foot. Exhale, take the right leg towards the back of the mat. Find your high lunge. One big step or lots of little steps, it's all good. Sink the hips down and forward. Keep your ribs and your hips stacked. Hands on the hips or arms up. Press your front knee towards your middle toes. Just make sure you can see your big toe there and you're not letting your knee dip inward. Final breath. And then we're going to come into that twist. So the right hand comes forward, the left arm goes back, and you take your gaze back towards your left thumb. Keep your hips square to the short edge of your mat. And try not to let your hips open, even though the upper body is twisting. Two more breaths here. And then triangle pose. Realign the hips front. Rotate on the ball of your back foot to open your hips and chest towards the right edge of your mat. Bend into the left knee. And then take the arms parallel to the floor. And then find your triangle pose. Lift your head away from your sit bones, away from your shoulders. Find tons of length in the spine. Minimize the sort of hinging and collapsing if you can. And then we're going to use our core muscles to lift ourselves upright. Take your hands to your hips. Shimmy in your back foot, and when you feel stable between both feet, then you can rotate on the ball of that back foot to place your hips forward, step forward. Nice. All right, so we're ready to come into some of our yin postures. So go ahead and take a seat down on the mat, and then I'll join you. All right, so for our first yin posture, we'll come into pigeon pose. So start off on your hands and knees, and then take your hands forward, one hand print. Slide your right knee forward towards your right wrist and ankle your ankle in towards your left hip. From there, start to slide your left leg back until both of your thighs touch the mat. Now, if both of your thighs don't touch the mat, that's completely okay. What generally happens is that the right hip is a bit lifted. You can take whatever padding you use for your knee, or you can take a block, go grab a blanket, a pillow, whatever, and just shove that under your right hip to help both of your legs feel fully grounded. From there, make sure that you can bring both of your hip points forward and both of your shoulders forward. Doesn't matter if your back toes are tucked under or released, just find what feels good on your knee and make sure you do the same thing on both sides. We'll take several breaths with the heart upright, and then we'll come into a forward fold. So maybe you let your eyes close. Start to bring your attention to sensations inside of your body. Just notice what's happening in the hips, the back, the shoulders. Your only job now is to breathe and to pursue this posture with integrity. I'll keep my eye on the time, and you just keep your awareness on the breath. The longer that we hold these postures, you may notice micro changes within your body. Just go ahead and welcome those. If you notice that maybe your hips sink a bit more to the floor, or it's easier to relax your shoulders away from your ears, just take advantage of all those little openings that are created. You don't have to remain like a statue, right? Just let it feel organic. This is the part where we can start to enter our forward fold. So how I like to cue it is to take your hands forward enough so that you can straighten your arms. Get a nice long spine. Square the hips again and see how that feels. If it's all right and you want to take it a little bit deeper, you can start to lower your forearms and your elbows to the mat. You're also welcome to take your forearms to blocks, which is a nice midway point, or your books. And if you're feeling very open in the hips today, you're always welcome to take your arms completely out and bring your forehead down to the mat. I feel like taking it a little bit more on the gentle side today, so I'm going to place my forearms on the blocks. Wherever you are in the posture, create a space that is comfortable on your shoulders as well as bearable on your hips. We don't want to be in any pain, and we certainly don't want to feel like we're forcing anything. You're holding these postures far too long to force anything in the body. We have about 5 more breaths here. And then you can start to bring a little bit more weight into the hands and the forearms. Lift your chest upright. Slide any props out of the way that you may have been using. And to come out of this, I find it's helpful to tuck your back toes under, press weight into your hands and your knee, and just slide that right knee back to meet the left. Let the knees come together towards the center of the body. Shift your weight into your left knee, and then make some circles with the right knee. Take those circles forward and back. Just bring some fluid movement into the hip joint. All right, side 2. So we're going to walk the hands forward slightly, take the left knee, left wrist, angle your left heel in towards your right hip, and then slide the right leg back. Use any props that you need to help support the left hip. And then from there, walk your hands in and lift the chest. Now, I have pretty long arms, so I'm able to bring my hands out in front of me and rest onto my fingertips. But if your arms are a little bit shorter, it could feel more supportive to take your hand to your thigh, your ankle, or your foot, and then sort of use that leverage. But you see how much my elbow's been? Like, that's really not as comfortable for me. So just find a position for the arms that works. Encourage your right hip forward and your left hip back, and just balance the weight between both sides of the body. And I will keep my eye on the time so that you can keep your awareness on the breath. Notice if your shoulders crept up towards your ears or your neck sort of descended forward. Recreate that space by lengthening your head away from your tailbone and dropping the shoulders. We're ready to come into the forward fold. So walk your hands forward so that your spine feels long, arms are long. And then from there, take the variation that you did on the first side. Unless there's some reason why you shouldn't, like an injury or something like that. But try to aim for some symmetry. See if the same variation of the posture serves your body on both sides. Scan your body and see if there's anywhere where you can release some unneeded tension. Maybe that's from your jaws, your teeth. Sometimes it's our hands. We find ourselves like gripping our hands a certain way. So just see if you can soften for maybe the next 10 breaths. Nice. Use an inhalation to bring more weight into your hands and your forearms. Slide your props out of this way. Bring your hands under the shoulders, tuck your back toes under, slide that left knee back. And then you can make those nice little circles with your left knee. Start to open up your left hip. And take those circles in both directions. Nice. For the next posture, we'll allow ourselves to come into a back bend, and we're going to use crocodile pose. It's a variation that's a little bit like Sphinx pose, but it helps you to come into your quads a bit more. So come lying down onto your abdomen and stack your shoulders right under your forearms. Bring your arms parallel to one another and let your hands sort of rest onto the mat parallel to each other. From there, press your pubic bone down, bend both of your knees so that your toes point up to the sky. Bring your awareness to your lower back. If it feels crunchy or congested or any sort of compression that you just don't think will serve you in this practice, start to walk your hands and your forearms forward so that you can take the dip out of your back and relieve some of the back bend. But if it feels okay on your low back, I encourage you to keep your elbows more or less under your shoulders. Draw the shoulder blades together behind you, lift your sternum, take your collarbone forward, and bring your chin parallel to the ground. This will be a slightly shorter hold than the last posture because we tend to dip so much into the shoulders. I feel like that compression can be a bit counterproductive. So just let your eyes close or take a gentle downcast gaze. Bring your awareness to your glutes. Notice if there is absolutely no activity in the glutes or if they are clenching for dear life. Try to find a balance between the two. Having the glutes engaged is important because your legs are extended behind you, but you don't want to tighten up so much that you cause like a lot of unnecessary tension. A little bit of engagement is good for the low back, but not too much. Exhale to let your chin drop to your collarbone. Take a stretch across the tops of the shoulders and the back of the neck. If this feels okay on your body, we'll hang out here. If not, just bring your head back up. Take about 10 more breaths. With the head down or up, just whatever feels more comfortable for you. Press the elbows down into the ground to help lift your body away from the floor. Drag the elbows back towards your hips. Help to open the chest. The low back is starting to feel a little crunchy. Maybe walk your elbows forward or press your pubic bone down and see if that helps. 2 more breaths. And after that second breath, release the bend into the knees. Make a little pillow for your forehead and let your forehead rest on your hands. Now let's go ahead and bring ourselves into our knees. To counterbalance that back bend, we want to find a position that allows us to lengthen and neutralize the spine. So I recommend taking a child's pose that uses blocks, but you're welcome to take the child's pose without the blocks too. So we want to take both blocks or stacks of books, just whatever you're working with, bring them shoulder distance apart, about 1.5 feet away from your knees. Then take your knees wide, let your big toes touch behind you. I find the knees, the wider the better because it gives your belly some space to like breathe and just like extend towards the floor. but sometimes that might not be great on the hips, so you can take your knees a little bit closer together. Yogi's choice. Bring your hands to your blocks. Lengthen from the crown of your head towards your spine and just start to hinge forward. I like to let the blocks slide with me. Take the forehead down to the mat. For this variation, you want the wrist and the hands to be fully supported by your blocks. If you get into this posture and the hands on the blocks is just too much for your shoulders, just slide the blocks out of the way and take classic child's pose, yogi's choice. You can just let the head dip forward and let gravity do the work. If you've come into this forward fold and into your child's pose and you realize that your hips aren't fully grounded towards your heels when you lean forward, just pause for a moment, grab like a pillow or a small blanket, and you can place it in between that space between your sit bones and your Achilles heel. That way you can feel nice and supported. Give yourself about 5 more breaths. Then use your next inhalation to walk your hands in. If it feels okay, you can rock to one hip to slide your legs forward, or just take whatever method feels best. We just want to straighten the legs out in front of us for a moment. Take it nice and easy in that transition. And find a staff pose. Dandasana. You want to just let your hands rest on either side of your hips. Nice long L shape through the body. Just about 2 or 3 more breaths here. Just a little counter pose. And then you can take both hands to help bend your knees in. So I'm going to turn to face you, but you're welcome to stay right where you are. I like to come into cow face pose next. So we're going to take that left leg, place the left foot on the outside of the right leg. You can pause here if you're already getting a nice stretch on the outer hip and the glute. If you want a little bit more intensity, then you're welcome to take that right heel, scoop it in towards the opposite side of your body, and then just start to stack the knees. Your knees might stack completely over one another, or they might not. Mine are not stacking over each other today, and that's cool. Let both of your sit bones be supported by the floor. Press the outer edges of your feet into the mat, and lift up tall through the chest. If this is good for you, work here. If you want more, you're welcome to take a forward fold, and maybe think about bringing your chin just beyond your knees. I'm going to stay upright for this one. Bring some awareness to the chest and shoulders. If you sort of started to let yourself slouch where the chest and shoulders come forward, recommit to lengthen the spine. Let the shoulder blades come towards one another and drop down the back. And bring some engagement into the low belly. That's going to help support the upper body upright. If you let yourself be completely lax in the abdomen, you're going to slouch naturally. So just maintain a little bit of engagement in that lower abdominal region by pulling your belly button back towards your spine. If you've been in the upright position and you would like to forward fold, you're welcome to take that option if you feel that the hips have opened a bit. You can also slide your heels in closer to your hips. That's another way that you can deepen the posture in your body. Like, I've already gotten a bit more opening than I started with, so just see if there's any other ways that you'd like to take this posture deeper. Maybe even by just balancing out your in and out breaths and letting your inhalations travel more towards your diaphragm. That's another way that you can deepen the posture for the next 10 breaths. And to come out of the pose, you can use your hands to help unravel the legs, and just let the legs come out in front of you. Just take a moment again in this nice neutral position for the legs, hands on either side of your hips. Use your hands to help lengthen the spine. Find it feels good to flex the feet, or maybe even do some little circles with the feet if that feels good. Sometimes I feel that pose just on my ankles from having my feet flexed so much and my ankles in kind of a weird position, so it feels good to move them. And then we'll do side two. So this time it's your right knee that bends and that right foot comes to the outside of the left leg. Work here, drawing your chest and your thigh together if that felt good on the first side. You're also welcome to take that left heel, scoop it in, and then start to stack your knees to their capacity. Press into the outer edges of both of your feet, pull your navel towards your spine, lengthen the crown of the head towards the ceiling. If you notice that you favor one hip or one side more than the other, really try to balance out that weight between both of your sit bones. Allow yourself to scan through the body and find a place to soften. Maybe it's the corners of your eyes or your lips, mouth, and jaw. Maybe let the shoulders relax away from the ears without letting them soften so much that they come forward. Just maybe find anywhere that is working in the body and doesn't need to be. Conversely, you can also maybe take the posture a bit deeper by deepening your breath, taking a forward fold, drawing your heels in more towards your sit bones and stacking the knees over each other a little more. Just whatever feels good to help you be more present on the mat. Use an inhalation to open the eyes if they've been closed. Start to unwind the legs. Hoo-wee. And I'm just going to turn back to my side now, but we'll go ahead and come onto our backs this time and straighten the legs out overhead. It's the same shape that we were making. We're just taking it on our backs this time. Create some little circles with the wrists. Or not the wrist of your legs, also known as your ankles. Just make some little circles there. Could feel good to maybe bend the knees, draw the knees in towards the chest, give your shins a squeeze, and just rock from one side to the other. Conveniently, we are already on our backs, which will make it nice and simple to come into our twist. So I like to take the feet to the outer edges of the mat, shift your hips about 1 inch towards the right and let both of your knees fall to the left. Focus on dropping your right hip down towards the short edge of the mat beyond you, rather than just like craning your knee down to the mat. Make sure you have plenty of space around your chin and your shoulders so that the breath flows easily. And you can pause here with your hands resting on your belly. If you want more of a chest opener, I encourage you to take your elbows in line with your shoulders and let your palms face up towards the ceiling. Make sure that both of your shoulders can anchor fully down onto the mat. And if that doesn't happen, then come out of your twist a little bit. Maybe place like a pillow between your knees or something like that. You have plenty of time here, so grab any props that you'd like. Have about 10 more breaths here. Let yourself sink down a little bit more into the mat. Then use your inhalation to bring your knees up towards center. Realign the hips and we'll take it right into the other side as our own counterbalance. See if there's any space to soften somewhere in the body or to deepen your breath, and just let yourself bring your thoughts and your awareness back onto the mat. It's natural for the thoughts to start to wander in these longer yin holds. And part of our work is to just be present. Use an inhalation to lift your knees back up towards the ceiling. Realign your hips towards the center of the mat and find a constructive rest before we come into Shavasana. So that means keeping your knees together so that they touch, walking your feet towards the outer edges of your mat, and then maybe just letting your hands rest onto your lower abdomen. Notice any sensations that may be varying between one side of the body and the other. And if there's any movement that you would like before Shavasana to help bring some symmetry, go ahead and take that movement. So I'm going to kick my blocks out of the way. And for me, I think a happy baby would feel good. So I'm going to draw my knees in towards my armpits, bring my shins perpendicular to the floor and the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling. And then take hold of the outer edges of my feet and encourage my knees more into the armpits. And I also like to rock. But maybe your body wanted another type of posture. Please go ahead and do whatever feels good. We have about 3 to 5 breaths before we enter Shavasana. So just do what your body is asking. And then whenever you are ready, make your way into your version of Shavasana for today. So classic form is to take your heels so that they're about hips distance apart and just kind of let your knees fall open, let your feet fall open naturally. You can take your hands onto either side of your hips and tuck your shoulders so that the shoulder blades rest nice and flat onto the ground. Lift your chin towards the ceiling and drop the shoulders away from the ears. This is classic form. You're also welcome to come back into constructive rest if that felt really good on your low back. Or you can place your blanket under your knees. There's all sorts of options. But just find something that allows you to turn off your muscular energy, to tune into your breath, and to just release any thoughts about the past, any worries about the future, and just let yourself be here on the mat right now. Shavasana. your wrist, your feet, your fingers, your toes. And come rolling over onto one side. Minimizing any strain in the neck and the back. Use your hands to press yourself upright, nice and slow. And find a cross-legged seat with your palms joined together at the center of your chest. Thank you all for joining me for practice today, and thank you for taking the time to love on yourself, to take care of your health and your well-being physically and mentally. The light in me bows humbly to that same light in you. Namaste.